Good morning. I'd like to call to order the November 1, 2023 City Council meeting. Let the record reflect that all City Council members and city officials are present or in the building. If we'd please stand and join us for the invocation followed by the pledge. And if you're please wearing a hat, would you please remove it respectfully?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we call you Father because we are your children. As I watch the sunrise this morning, I am reminded that you have brought us to the beginning of a new day. We ask that you forgive our errors of yesterday. Help each one of us walk closer to you. Please help us to walk in such a manner that you shine through us and every person we meet might feel your presence in our soul. Take our hand because we cannot do it by ourselves. Father, we pray for our nation, that you bring revival to your people. Father, we thank you for that we live in a free country where we can make our voices heard by voting. Let us make sure we do so. Father, bless this city council and the decisions they make today in this chamber, that they be a blessing to you and the people of Punta Gorda. Before we do our pledge, let our pledge be a prayer for the 20,000 servicemen and women we have in the Middle East right now. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carlo. We'll just pause for a moment so everyone can be seated. Before we begin our program today, I just want to make a couple of acknowledgments. First of all, thank you to everyone on the city staff who very, very diligently prepared a wonderful display last night for the kids for trick-or-treating. And thanks to the Punta Gorda Police and Fire and the EMS from Charlotte County for helping with public safety to keep everyone safe. It was a really fun event. It was really hot. And I know a lot of kids were running around in really heavy costumes, and God bless them. I think they all had a really great time. It was a lot of fun. So thank you to all the staff who made that happen. It's a lot of work every year, and we really appreciate everything that you did. Okay, our next meeting will be on November 15, 2023. To begin the meeting today, we have several proclamations and a service award, and I'm going to go down to the other podium to present the proclamations. Okay. The first proclamation this morning is in honor of Veterans Day, which will be next Saturday, November 11. And Gary Butler, are you here? Gary Butler? Okay. This is a proclamation from the city of Punta Gorda, Florida. Whereas World War I began on July 28, 1914, and did not officially end until the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919. Prior to the treaty, an armistice between the Allied nations and Germany went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. And whereas President Woodrow Wilson declared November 11, 1919 as the first commemoration of Armistice Day, stating to us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations. And whereas the men and women of our armed forces have made our state and nation immensely proud and will continue to serve as inspiration for generations to come, we honor, respect, and value the service, dedication, and valor of the patriotic men and women who who took up arms and swore an oath to defend our nation. And whereas the city acknowledges the contributions of veterans to projects which have made Punta Gorda a better place to live, including the Vietnam Wall of Southwest Florida, the Purple Heart Plaque Program. Could everyone please silence their devices? I'm really sorry to break this up in the middle of a proclamation, but it's very distracting. The Purple Heart Plaque Program, the Military Heritage Museum, and the William R. Gaines Jr. Veterans Memorial Park. And whereas we show our gratitude for our veterans' exemplary deeds through appropriate patriotic celebrations and reflection on their sacrifices. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby observe November 11, 2023 as Veterans Day, and urge citizens to celebrate the love of country and willingness to serve shown by our veterans and to honor veterans always. Passed and duly adopted this first day of November 2023. Signed, Lynn R. Matthews, Mayor. And accepting is Gary Butler from the Military Heritage Museum.
Just a couple of words about the importance of Veterans Day and why we recognize it and in many ways celebrate it. That day, throughout the area, there will be a number of recognition ceremonies and gatherings of folks that will honor the veterans of our community. So I encourage everybody to participate in one or many of the different ceremonies. Here at the museum, it's a full-day activity. It's probably our busiest day of the year, and we have a number of activities. But to put it to a very personal point about a veteran in the community, to give an example of why we recognize so many of them. Last night on NBC, I don't know if anybody caught that story that they showed about one of the veterans that serve here. Bob Willits is, I believe he's 94 years old. He flew 79 missions in a B-59 in the Korean War. And here he is, so many years later, still flying missions as one of our simulator pilots. So you can imagine the difference that he is making every single time when we have visitors or students who come in to the simulator room, and you get a chance to sit down with a Korean War veteran, a pilot that has so many stories to tell. And if you'd like to learn more about that story, we did post the video on our Facebook page. So we look forward to Veterans Day, and we look forward to seeing many of you here. Thank you.
Our next proclamation is in honor of the Healing Field of Honor Weekend. For those who may not be familiar with this, the Punta Gorda Rotary puts together a wonderful event once a year, and people can purchase flags in honor and memory of anyone that they knew who served in the military, or just anyone that they want to honor and recognize. And we had several hundred, how many flags, Jims? 1,000 flags the last time it was done. It was absolutely magnificent. Go over to Lashley Park when the Healing Field of Honor is going on next weekend, and you won't believe how absolutely beautiful it is. So this is a proclamation from the City of Punta Gorda, Florida. Whereas the men and women who serve and have served in the armed forces of the United States, first responders, and unsung local heroes have made major contributions toward keeping our country safe during times of great strife. And whereas the flag of the United States of America is a symbol of heroism and freedom and is a beacon of hope and light for our community, our nation, and indeed the world. And whereas the Punta Gorda Rotary Club, whose motto is service above self, has brought a stunning display of 1,000 United States flags to our community. And whereas the City of Punta Gorda desires to continue its efforts to recognize our heroic and selfless citizens. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim November 10 through November 12, 2023, as Healing Field of Honor Weekend, passed and duly adopted in regular session this first day of November 2023. Signed, Lynn R. Matthews, Mayor. And accepting is Peter Wilkins from the Punta Gorda Rotary Club with James Williams.
Good morning and thank you. You might wonder about the poppy. I'm a dual citizen, so I grew up in Canada, and at this time of the year, if you watch any Canadian television, you'll see a poppy, and I wish they had it down here. I do have some I gave them the Rotary last week. If I was doing this in a year's time, I would say we've been doing service work in Punta Gorda for 100 years. Next year is our centennial year, and we hope to celebrate next year. The Healing Field of Honor, 1,000 flags at Lashley Park. If you haven't seen it, it's a stunning display. As you cross the bridge and see those 1,000 flags, or you see them from the air, it's just amazing. If you haven't had a chance to dedicate that flag to someone, it could be a service member, it could be a first responder, it could be a nurse, it could be anybody that you feel a flag should be dedicated to. I have some additional flags. You can also purchase them at the field. We saved some rows so that you can purchase a flag and have it dedicated there. We'll put a tag on. We can have the flag shipped to you. You can donate it. You can come and pick it up. But please come and take a look at 1,000 flags. It's a stunning display, and I thank the council for the proclamation, and we'll see you next weekend. Thank you.
Okay, the next proclamation is in honor of the Florida International Air Show, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Dryberg to come down and assist me with this, since he is a veteran, and we would like to have him involved in this one. This is a proclamation from the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, whereas the Florida International Air Show is celebrating its 42nd year, and whereas on May 25, 1953, the Air Force's official air demonstration team, designated the 360th Air Demonstration Unit, was activated at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. The unit adopted the name Thunderbirds, influenced in part by the strong Native American culture and folklore of the southwestern United States, where Luke Air Force Base is located. From those humble beginnings and that first group of men, the Air Force Thunderbird legend was born, and whereas millions of people have witnessed the Thunderbirds demonstrations, and in turn, they have seen the pride, professionalism, and dedication of hundreds of thousands of airmen serving at home and abroad. Each year brings another opportunity for the team to represent those who deserve the most credit: the everyday hardworking airmen voluntarily serving America and defending freedom. And whereas the City of Punta Gorda is especially honored to welcome the premier aerial demonstration team, the United States Air Force Thunderbirds, to the 42nd Annual Florida International Air Show. And whereas the city recognizes the tremendous attraction and economic driver the air show represents for our community, and desires to show its support of the United States military. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim November 4 and 5, 2023, United States Air Force Thunderbird Days, passed and duly adopted in regular session this first day of November 2023, signed Lynn R. Matthews, Mayor. And accepting is Denise Dahl, who is the president of the Florida International Air Show.
Well, I'm accepting this on behalf of the Thunderbirds. I'm hoping that everyone will come out this weekend. It is the 42nd annual air show. We have a lot of entertaining acts coming, but nothing is more entertaining than jets. It is a military show. There are a lot of military statics and airplanes, and we're hoping that you'll join us this weekend for the show.
Okay, our next proclamation, I'm looking for Council Member Peterman. Where'd she go?
In the front row.
Oh, I didn't even see you, I'm sorry. I'm looking all over the room and you're right there in front of me. Councilmember Peterman will give a proclamation for National American Indian Heritage Month. Having a hard time talking this morning.
Thank you, Mayor. Proclamation, City of Punta Gorda, Florida. Whereas the ancestors of our country's indigenous people first settled the Americas thousands of years prior to European settlement, these early people developed hundreds of thriving tribes and cultures, 574 of which remain in the United States of America to this day. And whereas the history of our great nation has been significantly influenced by Native Americans and indigenous peoples, their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States. Their contributions from the invention of baby bottles to the service of code talkers in both World War I and World War II have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America. And whereas American Indian Week was established in 1986 and subsequently expanded by Congress and approved by President George H.W. Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Heritage Month. And whereas, in honor of National Native American Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned throughout the country. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, does hereby proclaim November 2023 as National American Indian Heritage Month, and urges citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, passed and duly adopted in regular session this first day of November 2023, City of Punta Gorda, Florida, signed by the Honorable Lynn R. Matthews, Mayor. And accepting this proclamation will be Sue Campbell, representing the Daughters of American Revolution.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to accept this on behalf of my Charlotte Bay chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Okay, and our final presentation this morning is a service award, and this is in honor of 10 years of service to the City of Punta Gorda for Teresa Vargo, who is a 10-year veteran of the Punta Gorda Police Department.
Radio transmission. So I want to take a minute to talk about Teresa. Chief Pam Davis with the Punta Gorda Police Department. First of all, thank you, City Council, for always taking the time to recognize our personnel. Teresa began her career with the Punta Gorda Police Department October 28th, 2013, and she's been a public safety telecommunicator with us. She serves as one of our valuable communications training officers and has actually been responsible for assisting in the training of every one of our current dispatchers with the exception of Audrey Dennis. So that's amazing. We have 11 total, so you've actually trained pretty much everyone in there. And as you know, they do a good job, so I think that's a reflection upon Teresa. In addition to maintaining department certifications, Teresa is responsible for keeping our Away from Home program up to date, and that ensures the citizens who entrust us to keep checks on their homes that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it's Teresa that makes sure that happens. Throughout her career with the Punta Gorda Police Department, Teresa has received numerous accolades for her work performance. This includes Exceptional Duty Award, Exceptional Team Performance Award, 2 Special Recognition Awards, and the Chief's Award for Job Excellence. When Teresa is not at work, she enjoys spending time with her husband Frankie and her 2 sons, 4 and Finn, and she is expecting a baby girl, so she's very excited about that. So thank you, Teresa, for all your hard work and dedication and for keeping our citizens and our first responders safe. You want to say something?
Thank you, Chief. Okay, at this time, we're going to begin the public input portion of the meeting. First, if there's anyone in the audience that has submitted a resume to be considered for a board or committee seat for a volunteer board, if you'd like to please come to the podium and introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Board. My name is Thomas Valdetta. I put an application in to be, I guess, considered for the Canal Advisory Board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to introduce themselves as a board or committee person? Okay. At this point, we will. I need to read some housekeeping notes into the record before we begin public comments. If you haven't already done so, please silence all personal devices as this meeting is being recorded and it disrupts the proceedings when phones go off during the meeting. There's a code of conduct in the council chambers. Please make yourself familiar with what's on the screen in front of you. Members of the public who wish to address the council should use the guest podium in the center of the room. The podium to the right of the stage is for staff and applicant presentations only. Please speak directly into the microphone and begin by stating your name for the record. If it is a quasi-judicial hearing, please also state that you've been sworn in when you come to the podium. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak, and sharing minutes is not permitted. Speakers are to direct all comments to the City Council, not the audience or any one individual council member. Discussion between speakers and members of the audience is not permitted. When there are many individuals who wish to speak, speakers should try not to reiterate lengthy comments made by others to ensure an effective and efficient meeting. This ensures everyone has an opportunity to speak. Audience and speakers will be courteous in their language and presentation. No applause, sidebar conversations, or booing before, during, or after each speaker. Please refrain from talking in the audience during the meeting. If you have supporting documents that you wish to display during the meeting, you must provide a copy to the city clerk, and the documents become part of the permanent record and will be retained by the clerk's office. The citizen comments portion of the meeting is not intended to be a question and answer session. This is for citizen input only. Council members should refrain from answering impromptu questions or debating issues with members of the public. With that, we will open up the floor for public comments. Go ahead, sir.
Well, good morning, City Council and everybody in the chamber. My name's Tim Ritchie, and I'm a resident of Punta Gorda Isles in Charlotte County, and I'm the citizen water czar and the founder and president of March Against Mosaic. The Peace River, the Myakka River, and Charlotte Harbor are severely impaired. At 2023, we are now at a 30% loss. Most people don't know or even understand what that really means. How could you remove the environmental protection in the coastal areas with the new LDRs at 100-foot tall buildings with 50 to 1 acre density? That is not helping the environment or the Peace River or Myakka River and Charlotte Harbor. And thank you, sir. The juvenile snook, reds, tarpon are declining in the tidal ponds and pools. Most people don't know what that means. The Florida water quality crisis is real, very real, I assure you. Tourism is what Punta Gorda and Charlotte County relies on to generate revenues and for families to be able to feed themselves. I have never seen the resolution banning phosphate mining or the updating of the land use code. The letter to Governor DeSantis supporting DeSoto County denying Mosaic on July 25th, 2018. These are very important things for the city to do. Doesn't matter if we're grandfathered in with Charlotte County. You want to be the leader. You don't want to be the follower. Any day any one of you would like to meet with me, I will be happy to give you 2 hours of my time. I will educate you on things that you will have no idea about. But I can tell you, at my doctor's appointment yesterday, and I only get 60 seconds to cover the environment with him, he said, "You know, Tim, every time we have this, you terrify me." And that's the real truth here. FDEP is not protecting us. We are not being protected by Swift Mud. Just like we all like to complain about what happens in D.C., this is my saying. Everything begins and ends in the council chambers and the commissioner chambers. We must stop this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Connie Payne. I'm the president of NAACP, Charlotte County, branch 5093B. Good morning, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I know the Cooper Street Rec Center was not on the agenda for today, so I will be brief. There are 2 points we would like to make at this time. We understand there are ongoing plans to change the Cooper Street Rec Center. The Cooper Street community only found out about the changes. The City Council has planned for Cooper Street Rec Center through reading about these changes in the local newspaper. The NAACP has been meeting with the Cooper Street community. We would like the City Council to know, number one, from what we understand, there is going to be a change in the lease of Cooper Street Rec Center. We also understand the existing lease does not expire until 2025. Number two, we understand the City Council is planning on making changes to the existing Cooper Street Board. We have no information on these changes other than what we have read in the local paper. We want to know when this will be on your agenda. As representative for the residents of Cooper Street, we do not have an issue with changing the board. We do have an issue if the members on the new Cooper Street board does not have members from the Cooper Street community on this board. It took a community to make it start, and it will take a community to make the rec center continue to thrive. So with that being said, the residents of Cooper Street and this rec center has the full support of the NAACP behind this effort. Going forward, the Cooper Street community would like to develop a working partnership with the City Council so that everyone is included in the decision-making of these changes. Because you see, we cannot change the past, but with everyone working together as the center's community, I believe we can once again become progressive in meeting the needs of the residents of Charlotte County via the Cooper Street Rec Center. What we want is communication, connection, engagement. This is the mindset of all. So, in conclusion, Madam Mayor and City Council members, our aim is not to cause trouble or disrupt the process of this council. As I stated earlier, what we want is communication, connection, engagement with this council. The Cooper Street Rec Center was founded 50 years ago. It was founded by the black members of the community. Those faces on the building, side of that building, are the founders of the Cooper Street Rec Center. It was founded because the residents were not permitted to attend the white rec center. So we, as I said, we do not have an issue with this council. We do want to partner with this council. We do want to work with this council. We feel that we should have a seat at the table. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, Bob Fritz, Burnt Store Isles. Last council meeting, the council approved the new comprehensive plan and voted to forward it to the state. I wanted to take a look at it, so I went on the website and looked at urban design, couldn't find it. I found a draft one there, but not the one that was approved. So I went to the agenda and got it from there. And I saw that there was an executive summary, which surprised me, but it was good because it condenses things. So let me read page 16. More than before, Punta Gorda will have to concentrate on protecting its existing assets, such as the historic downtown and restoring Fisherman's Village, once a colorful, vibrant artist colony and highly popular tourist destination, but now destroyed by Hurricane Ian. Destroyed by Hurricane Ian? I had lunch there 2 months after Ian. It's fine. So this is an untruth. It's incorrect, it's a lie, it's a falsehood, it's a fabrication, it's a whopper, it's a blatant falsehood, and it's a bold-faced lie. I'm surprised the city attorney would allow something with that, containing those lies, to go to the state. Something is wrong somewhere, and I don't know the benefit of saying it's destroyed in the comprehensive plan unless it relieves developer of LDR requirements at some future point. This is a plan that goes out to 2045. In 2040, somebody's going to look back and say, oh, Fisherman's Village was destroyed by Hurricane Ian. It's wrong. Something is wrong somewhere, and you better find it and you better correct it before it goes to the state or file an amendment to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council?
Good morning. My name is Patty Gerzo. I'm a Charlotte County resident, and I work for the Small Business Development Center. I'm here today to introduce myself. Reading the articles in the paper about Cooper Street Recreation, it seems that there's a real lack of awareness of our organization and what we do. So I thought I would share. I replaced a gentleman by the name of Peter Keating, who some of you may know. He was with the Small Business Development Center for 7 years, and our office was in the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce. Since the end of September last year, we are no longer in the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce. Without a budget for rent, we rely on partnerships to serve customers. Our clients are confidential, and we deliver one-on-one consulting to them. In Port Charlotte, I hold meetings at Synovus Bank, not the most convenient location for people in Punta Gorda. So I met with Jaha, and serendipitously we talked about using an office at Cooper Street Recreation Center. That has been happening since May, and I serve clients there. I conduct workshops there and at Port Charlotte, and it's also a convenient location for residents of Babcock Ranch. So just some stats on our activity level. We have delivered almost 600 hours of consulting to clients this year. I've done about 90% of that, being a resident. There are another 10 consultants that work in FGCU who have helped out. I start a new business every month and a half. I've started 9 of them this year. We did 7 last year, even with a hurricane. I have a piece of paper I'll leave on the outside for any small business owner. There's a QR code, and our services are offered at no cost to the business owner. We help with marketing, we help with accessing capital, we help with planning, recruiting, managing. My colleague Mark Odell will talk about government certifications as well. But this is a service that's offered across all of Florida, in fact across all 50 states. And our region, located out of FGCU, serves from Charlotte to Collier County. So I hope that helps maybe put a face with what is the Small Business Development Center. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are others that plan to speak, would you please stand and line up in the aisles so that we can keep the meeting?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a very sensitive microphone.
So I'm Dorian Zvierevich. I'm actually the regional director of the Small Business Development Center at FGCU. I moved here something like 16 months ago from the Panhandle of Florida. I just wanted to continue and just educate the City Council. The Small Business Development Center is a federally funded program, so it's your tax dollars, it's everyone's tax dollars at work. We were founded in 1976, and it literally costs a business nothing to use us. I like to give people examples. If you have a grandson who wants to start a business, doesn't know how to file the paperwork, that's what we do for free, and we help them file the paperwork. If you're a restaurant owner and you have 10 employees and you're growing and you want to build a new location in a new city nearby, we can help with the financial projections. We can help find locations based on demographics of the area. All of that costs nothing. And if you're, getting to the age where you're like, honey, it's time to sell my business, we can actually help you come up with a business valuation so you could have the discussion with the seller or with a potential buyer. Our federal budget is something about $500,000, just to let you guys know for our region. The federal government has a requirement where if they give me $500,000, we're supposed to come up with a match from local communities. Generally speaking, like Lee County gave us $150,000 this year. The city of Cape Coral gave us $30,000 this year. A lot of places can't afford, LaBelle, Moorhaven, Kent, Hendry, and Glades County, but they're really beneficial in the sense that they give us free office space, because if I can have a space to put one of my business consultants, we can serve your community at no cost for the business owner and support the small business growth of your area. I did want to say, I have one other thing. We're here for the community. We're here to support you guys. I always encourage everybody. I mean, if you have any questions about what we do or what we can and cannot do, please let me know. But we're definitely not corporate welfare. We're not a private company. The Cooper Street Rec Center, we want to help the community by making that building extremely popular. We want people to utilize that building as a community asset, so that's why we're very excited for the partnership there. I don't know how, but I'd like to leave you guys with stats of the businesses we've helped this year so far and last year. So where do I give you the sheet of paper?
Give it to the city clerk.
City clerk, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Greetings, honorable city council members and staff. My name is Mark Odell, and I'm doing cleanup here on the FGCU side. I'm from the Florida Apex Accelerator Program at FGCU, and I'm a tiny little line item on the Department of Defense budget. And our goal at Florida Apex Accelerators, as being hitched with Small Business Development Center, is to work with the businesses throughout the 5-county region that I'm stationed at, to assist them in planning, registering, competing, and winning government contracts. In fact, direct federal contract awards here, just looked up some stats, Charlotte County for fiscal year 2023 totaled just over $171 million. And that's outside of any income coming in from disaster. In addition, a lot of my role is assisting the businesses in attaining various certifications, including minority-owned small business, veteran-owned small business, woman-owned small business, and so on. Locally, I'm pleased to serve our very own City of Punta Gorda Procurement Department in assisting them in resolving vendor registration compliance issues and being a resource to assist with such things as what we call PUG, or purchases under grants, and clarifying that, especially with the FEMA dollars coming in. This can be confusing. As a Punta Gorda resident, I was pleased to hear about our center being offered the opportunity to utilize space at the Cooper Street Rec Center to meet clients and conduct workshops in a more functional satellite office environment, just as Dorian talked about in some of the other communities we serve. As I see clients throughout the 5 counties, I was actually surprised, and much to my chagrin, even clients from Naples and Marco said, no, we won't meet you in Fort Myers, we'll meet you up to Punta Gorda. It's a good reason to come up, walk the city, we'll go out to Fisherman's Village. I said, great, come on up. We are grateful for the use of the space at the Cooper Street Rec Center, and also believe, as an observation, I think our presence has had a little bit of a side benefit in mitigating some of the blight and strengthening that neighborhood as well. We thank you for your continued partnership in whatever form that may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and fellow council members, not fellow council members, but council members. I appreciate your service and thank you for listening. My name is Grace Keenan, and I'm a resident of PGI, and I wanted to address the proposed ordinance regarding short-term rentals.
if I may stop you right there. I've stopped the timer. We do have that as a public hearing on today's agenda, so if you'd like to make comments that will be relevant and can be considered in our deliberations, you should do the comments at that time, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Lustig. Boy, go Eagles. My son goes to FGCU, and you learn something new every day. I didn't even know that this is one of the programs that are done in Cooper Street. We all want the best for our community. We all want to come to consensus. The council has a very difficult job dealing with certain restrictions, laws. They have to follow proper procedures. I've learned that from being on the Code Enforcement Board, watching what goes on there. Just to give you an example, we have a blighted house, and everything is done by statute in the Code Enforcement Board, and they're not able to, as easily as a private citizen is, to find out who owns the property and to get in touch with them. And through the volunteerism of an attorney and my calling up hundreds of phone calls to find this individual, I was able to put them together with the Code Enforcement Board. It is the partnership between the public and the council that can create more opportunity for people in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Seeing no one rise, we will move ahead to the next agenda item, and that is... Sorry? Sure, go ahead.
I'll just take a moment to clarify a couple things on the comments for Cooper Street Recreation Center, not new Operation Cooper Street Board. Two different things. Newspaper is a very good place to get information. We're glad we have the reporter here. Council meetings are an even better place. So when we talk about issues, City Council has no opportunity to discuss these outside of a public meeting. So when we come to public meetings, some of them are used as workshop moments where they can speak amongst themselves and determine what direction to move forward with. When it comes to the Cooper Street Recreation Center, one of the things that the city has done is start to look at all the leases the city has to make sure they're legally sufficient and no one is in violation of state statute. We've really started that with Peace River Wildlife Center. We then reviewed the boat club, and one of the oldest leases is New Operation Cooper Street board that manages the Cooper Street Recreation Center, the lease with New Operation Cooper Street. One of the things we found is that the legal requirements in leases that the state specifies are not in all our leases, including New Operation Cooper Street lease, and we either bring that into compliance or we close the doors. So I would suggest that everyone is happy that the lease will be revised to bring it into compliance. That's the first thing. That means that there is actually a lease then, that someone can manage the facility. Secondly, council has no authority whatsoever to disband New Operation Cooper Street Board or any other board that's developed independently. So saying the council wants to disband that board is actually very inaccurate. And as far as management of the facility, council started with some of the comments you heard last meeting, where that was a meeting to speak amongst themselves about what direction to take. And included in that, I met with the president of the New Operation Cooper Street Board 3 times before his untimely passing, which of course everyone still mourns. And since that last meeting, I've met with the current president of the New Operation Cooper Street Board. The requests there are very simple. What programs are available? Can we have a presentation that shows what programs that our New Operation Cooper Street Board are helping facilitate at the Community Rec Center? And then the financials that show how the board manages the center itself, given that the city spends a substantial amount of time and money actually operating the facility from an operational standpoint of the facility itself and pays for that operation. So it's interesting, and I always say this, when we have budget hearings that do things like provide line items to support operations of our assets, including the community rec center, we have no comments. But something like this, all of a sudden everyone's here to comment. I would like support to have more money in the budget, so would council, to operate some of the assets we have. That would be a very nice thing. But no one has said that the board or the rec center is going to change programs. What they have said is we need to know what the programs are and how that can facilitate the community involvement and the community need that has always existed and that has been served by that board and that facility. And that's where we are right now. It's a conversation. The conversation is still occurring. And when you ask when it'll be on the agenda, as soon as I get the information back from the current president and the board, it'll be put on the agenda again. I don't know when that will be because that'll be up to Jaha, of course, and he is working on that. So no one has said a lot of the things that have caused misperceptions in the community, that the center is going to be changed, the management's going to be changed, everything's going to be closed, the lease change is so that you can change management. None of that is accurate. The lease is going to be changed to be legally sufficient regardless of who manages the center. The center will continue to be kept by the city as far as operationally, and the programmatic aspect as far as SBDC goes especially, we appreciate what the SBDC can do. In a former position I held, I worked very closely with the SBDC. We had Frostburg State University that had their own SBDC. We provided the office space, the office equipment, and even staff support along with our economic development staff. So very aware of the benefit of the SBDC. The problem with the SBDC was that council members were approached to thank them for providing space in Cooper Street Rec Center, and they didn't know they were there. So that's why the question about what is the SBDC doing at the rec center came up, so that there was simply a conversation back and forth so council could find out. And that's one of the reasons that we want additional information that was requested by the current president, and we had discussed with the previous president, and that conversation will continue to move forward. So it's not as egregious as a lot of people have made out. It's nothing that is targeted or has any hidden agenda. It's simply adequate leases that are legally sufficient and adequate management of a facility that served the community for a long time, so it continues to do that, and that's it. So the conversation will continue as soon as we get the information back, and again, this is the only place council can speak amongst themselves to make that happen. So that's why you hear it here, and why you don't hear it in the community a lot of times, that council is going to do this or that unless it's speculation, because they can't talk about it unless it's here. So if you want to know what they've said specifically, make sure you watch the meetings, read the minutes, and follow the progress of what's happening. And if you want any other additional detailed information, you can always contact me, because I can talk to people outside this meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, so the next section of our agenda is to adjourn as City Council, and we will reconvene as the Community Redevelopment Agency.
Thank you.
Hi.
All right. Hey, Pat. Good. Hey, good. Good to see you. I didn't know what CP shirt. I thought I was supposed to wear red. Yeah. I'm interested in community development. Yeah. I'm going to see it. Good news.
I'll give a moment till we clear the room.
I'm going to go right now.
Good morning.
I figured the room would kind of clear after comments, so I didn't want to wait to the end to say anything. So I apologize for the interjection.
No, that's fine. I think it really made a lot of things a lot more clear. Okay. We are now in session as the Community Redevelopment Agency. The first agenda item is citizen comments on CRA agenda items only. If anyone wishes to comment On CRA agenda items, you may come to the podium, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move ahead. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the October 4th, 2023 CRA meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the October 4 meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Murray, you're on.
Let's see if I have any words left. Here's what we're going to do. It's changing there. It's not changing here. So we'll just go with the screen. Municipal marina activity. We'll start there. Obviously, when you look at our annual numbers, things are still down for numerous reasons. We had a nice hot summer, and we've had a lot of issues to deal with, not to mention the fact that we're still working on several of the finger docks that are being replaced, and our mooring ball field, of course, is in disrepair, shall we say, where not only do the balls have to be replaced, but we have to geolocate the actual anchor locations and have those replaced, and then the mooring balls attached so that that field will be fully functional again. So we have that project along with the fishing pier and the marina itself that is under development. We have a report back from Hans Wilson, the engineer, of course, and we're looking at what needs to be done so we can get those assets back in place. It will still take some time, as does a lot of things. When I keep saying, when we talk to the airport authority, the county, everyone else, FPL, you can see that they're pretty much on the same schedule we are. Things are starting to happen, but they haven't happened yet. We're fortunate that right now we have our lights back on downtown, which is a great thing from this
Thank you so much.
Past week. So thank you to everyone that's worked on that to make that happen. That means we not only have street lights, but we're able to wrap them with our nice Christmas light decorations.
And the clock's going to work too.
And the clock is also working and is scheduled to start playing Christmas music in December like it always did. So we're back one more step towards the normalcy that we know and love. So again, we had 14 annuals this month. You can see our liveaboards. We still have one liveaboard, and of course they're compliant with our 6-month state statute limitation. The semi-annuals, we had 2 in there. We have 17 that are on a monthly basis, which is good. Commercial moorings, we still have our 14 for the Freedom Boat Club. And when you look at our monthly comparisons, you can see that in October of 23, which is what we just left, we had 49 pump outs, and they were all Florida vessels. September of 23, we had 56. October of 22, after, of course, September of 22, the hurricane, we had 35, so we're right on schedule with that. We have a little over 1,000 gallons that we pumped out for 128 miles. Of course, that's a benefit to the people that are in the boating community, because we do that without charge, and we have grants that reimburse that, and that helps us protect the water quality in Charlotte Harbor, making sure that it's properly disposed of. When it comes to projects, I just want to touch on 3 at this point. The A.C. Freeman House that you see in the City Hall that I just passed, we have our 90% plans back in. We'll be discussing those at the next meeting. Obviously, we've expected increases in cost for these, anywhere from 30 to 40% in some cases. Fortunately, the larger projects, I think, are under that. The architect and our construction manager at risk have been looking at things like A.C. Freeman House that came in, much higher than that, over 100%, and they've been able to reduce that cost somewhat. So that'll be at least a more palatable cost than the initial submissions, and that's why we pay the money to those gentlemen to review these plans and make sure that they can look at them when they come back in with that costing and see, is there anything that we can change, do differently, or have the same outcome and do it in a more cost-effective manner. And they have been able to do some of that and bring some of these costs down. So you'll see those at the next meeting. What we anticipate discussing is, of course, City Hall. Again, a historic building, and anytime you're doing work in historic buildings, you have multiple reviews, multiple state reviews, multiple approvals, drives all the pricing up, not to mention the construction requirements for any contiguous structures as well as the historic structure itself. That and AC Freeman, of course, drives the cost up routinely, not to mention the environment and the economics that we're working against. So speaking of that, when we come to the splash pad that was approved, we do have all the documents in that were required of the contractor, all his insurances, the paperwork, and they're right now, the project's active and they're working on the dewatering permit so they can dig the holes to replace the tanks and get the project moving. So we have a project that's moving forward. We know there's a lot of things happening during the winter that this conflicts with, but when you have a year-long project or more, there's no way to not conflict with something. So we're moving forward with getting that complete, and then hopefully when it starts to get hot again, or is getting the hottest, we'll have a project in place that everyone can fully enjoy. So that's all the comments I have at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Murray? Okay, thank you. All right, we move on to commissioner comments. Mr. Dryberg, anything?
Nothing.
Mr. Butler?
No thanks.
Ms. Peterman?
Nothing.
Mr. Kuharski?
Nothing.
Okay. I just would like to, before we adjourn this segment of the meeting, I would like to say our condolences to Gary Butler. His father passed away a week or so ago, and we really send our most sincere condolences to you and your family. And I'd also like to thank you and all of the staff here at the museum for hosting Dr. Klein's service on Friday night. It was beautiful. Nothing less than beautiful is the only word I can come up with. It was very poignant, very touching. The room was full, and it just showed all the love and affection that everyone in the community shared for Dr. Klein. And we thank you very, very much. And thanks to the City Water Department for providing bottles of water. It was a wonderful addition. It was a very warm evening, so everybody really appreciated that. Several local restaurants participated and donated lots of food for everyone, and it was just a very nice evening, so we thank everyone. With that, we are adjourned, and we will reconvene as City Council.
And you were missed. You were missed.
Okay. We are now in session again as City Council, and the first item on the agenda is an ordinance, and that is GA 06-2023.
Yes, this is a legislative ordinance, which I'll read by title only, the first reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Punta Gorda, Florida, amending Chapter 15, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, Punta Gorda Code, by the addition of a new Section 15-49 Punta Gorda Code concerning vacation rentals, providing findings and applicability, providing definitions, providing a state license for vacation rentals, requiring a state license for vacation rentals, requiring a local business tax for vacation rentals, requiring city registration of vacation rentals, providing for contents of applications for a certificate of vacation rental registration, providing for incomplete applications for certificates of vacation rental registration, providing for inspections prior to issuance of certificates of vacation rental registration, providing for the preparation of a vacation rental information brochure, providing duties of vacation rental owners, providing for responsible parties, providing minimum life safety requirements, providing minimum standards of conduct for all occupants of vacation rentals, providing certificates of vacation rental registration are non-transferable and non-assignable, excuse me, providing for pre-existing vacation rental agreements, providing for enforcement, providing a schedule of fees, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. And Mayor, since I'm going to be doing the presentation, I'd like to read into the record a brief statement. As you know, the Florida legislature prohibits the city from prohibiting vacation rentals. Pursuant to Council's direction, the proposed vacation rental registration ordinance was drafted after reviewing a number of relatively recent ordinances from cities and counties around the state. The focus of the ordinance before you today is to enhance knowledge of existing city codes intended to create quiet, clean, orderly, and safe single-family residential neighborhoods. It is intended to create a process for enhanced accountability and a response to violations of those city codes. It also requires that residences used for vacation rentals be equipped with smoke detectors and fire extinguishers to provide safe living quarters for visitors to our city. An annual inspection requirement associated with registration renewals will help to ensure that vacation rentals are maintained in a safe condition. It will also ensure that existing local taxes for such businesses are paid prior to annual operation. Fees are intended not as a deterrent to the registration of vacation rentals, but to help offset the cost of administration of the program. Finally, perceptions affect behavior. Perceptions of adverse impacts of vacation rentals, true or false, can adversely affect the stability of a residential neighborhood, thereby affecting property values. The purposes of this ordinance is to attempt to ensure that the perceptions with respect to vacation rentals do not become reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have before us a proposed ordinance, and I would like to, well, that's all the presentation you're going to be doing on it? Okay.
Let's have something to say.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Interrupt you, but again, when council discusses these type of issues, they have to do it in a public setting, so there's no opportunity to say, wow, we see an ordinance that's here, here's what I think, here's what I think. It has to be done in this setting. So again, with the vacation rental ordinance, I think there was some good input last time and comments for why the attorney would draft an ordinance. He's provided what is legally sufficient, and probably not everything that you could do, because you discuss things that would be removed. So it's kind of a vanilla version. But the purpose of this is not that it's necessarily approved today. It could be, but it can be modified, things can be removed, things can be added, it can be eliminated, it can be approved as is. The purpose of this is discussion of this and listening to input so that we can come to a final outcome and then move forward.
Okay, so since the presentation is officially completed, we will now open up the floor for public comments on this agenda item. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this agenda item, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate a second chance, second swing at this. My name is Grace Keenan, and I own 4 short-term rental properties here in Punta Gorda. I'm a resident of Punta Gorda Isles. And I've been through this experience because I also have a short-term rental property in Indian Rocks Beach. And for the attorney who has drafted this, I see some similar language. Hate to see what has happened there happen in our community. I share your concerns for safety and the health of our community. I'm a retired physician, and I would like to bring a few examples to your attention of how other cities have dealt with these concerns. I would like to reference AZRT, Arizonans for Responsible Tourism. And when the Super Bowl was hosted there, there was a lot of concern in the community, I think fair concern, that people who would rent short-term rentals would throw big Super Bowl parties at these houses. The short-term rental owners in that area got together and hosted an MVP hosting boot camp. And it was very successful, and there were no major problems during the Super Bowl as a result of it. As a result, that area has not deemed it necessary to further legislate. VRON in Palm Springs is another example whereby the hosts and the city partnered up and resolved concerns such as this. And in El Paso, there is an El Paso STRA, and the El Paso city has decided not to regulate or put an ordinance in place because they have a dialogue between the city and those who own short-term rentals. I'm not looking for another job. It took me a long time to retire from the one I had. But I am happy to reach out to you and work with you in an honest and forthright manner to address the concerns. I would be happy to work with other short-term rental owners here. I've worked well with Perry Turner, who's represented the city over the last for me, it's been 6 years. I think it's been Perry all that time. I asked her what the concerns or complaints were. She wasn't aware of any. So I think if there really are complaints and concerns, I would like to know, as would other short-term rental owners, what are the number of citations and what are they about and where are they occurring? And we would be happy to work with you to try to resolve these issues. As I read the ordinance, a lot of the things that are in it we already do. So, a lot of this is required, licensure with the state and so on and so forth. So, specifically concerns about fire extinguishers and smoke alarms, of course, I think most people would have that. Certainly Airbnb and Verbo require those things. I would think most of the people that are doing this partake in them.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Mayor, before we move on, I'd like to close that door. There's
Please,
a lot
I
of
was
noise.
just going to go do that myself.
Okay. Thank you.
Really sorry for the distraction.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rob Olson. This is my lovely wife, Jill. We live in Minnesota. We have 4 short-term rentals here in Punta Gorda, soon to be 5. We plan on making Punta Gorda our home. We love it here. We've been in business for 30 years in Minnesota and Nevada in the telecommunications and payment processing industry. This is where we plan to retire and make our permanent home. We've invested millions of dollars into this community. We pay tens of thousands of dollars annually in taxes, property taxes and business tax. We care about this community. We care about the short-term rental industry. We care about our neighbors. We talk with all of our neighbors. Well, I shouldn't say all of our neighbors. We talk with our close neighbors to make sure that any of our guests that are stepping out of line, we hear about it. For example, we got a phone call that we had some guests that were setting up what looked like a baby shower. They had 30 chairs sitting out on the lanai. We called them immediately. We gave them 1 hour. You need to remove all of those, go somewhere else. They weren't happy, but they complied. That's an example. We have not had any ordinance violations. With one exception, we got warned because our trash can was out more than one day. One of the ordinances proposed that I'm concerned about that's vague, and quite frankly, I don't know of any other industry that does this, that holds us accountable for the actions of our guests. I can see it if it's multiple violations, that we're ignoring those violations, but our guests, for instance, we get a lot of contractors and roofers that stay in our properties. They drive in, pull in with a truck with a name on the side of their door, and we get violated for that. I can see a warning. We warn our guests, you need to cover that up or not park that truck in our driveway. If that's one of the city ordinances, if that's a sensitive issue, we will comply. We have no problem with almost any of these, but there are a couple of on here. I don't want a great big exit sign in my home that's lit up 24 hours. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So we appreciate what you're doing here. We really do. We would love to be on some kind of a committee to help it make sense for all of us, to keep out the do-badders, the guys that are not complying, that are not licensed. They should be sanctioned. They should be fined. But we are responsible vacation rental owners. We respect our neighbors. We do everything we can. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tony Schwartz. This is my significant other and business partner, Shelley Irving. Honorable Mayor and Council members, we appreciate you letting us speak on behalf of this issue. We too, and I don't want to repeat what's already been said, we also own vacation rental properties here in Punta Gorda, all single-family homes. Again, we have put millions of dollars into the community, and we feel we bring a lot of value to the community, a lot of business to the community. One of the things that I want to point out is that many of our guests that come down are people that are coming either to visit family or have family. Somebody lives here, they don't have enough space in their home, they want to rent a home for their family to come down, that kind of stuff. We've been here since 2021. We have a total of 3 properties right now that are active vacation rentals, and We've never had one complaint on anything. We agree with 90% of the stuff that we're looking at here. I think that we have to have regulations. I think it's great for those that are not following the rules. But there are some things in here that were brought up earlier, like the exit lights and being responsible for the people, and certain things that just need to be discussed. And so all I'm asking is that we discuss those issues and we have an opportunity to go through this and make sure it's a win-win situation. We're seeing this all over the country. There's a lot of, the hotel industries don't want us here. A lot of industries don't want us here, but we feel we're offering a value to the community. Shelley and I are moving down here next year. We will be residents of the community, and we think that we are offering a great asset to the community. I don't know if you have anything.
Well, we love.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Michelle Irving.
Thank you.
We love Punta Gorda. I love Punta Gorda. I have been a licensed real estate broker in Punta Gorda for 25 years. I've brought numerous people down here to live full time, and this is the spot that I chose to retire. So I understand the vacation rental concerns that people bring up, but I think a lot of it is not factual, and I think just a lot of people don't like it. And so we have gotten together with vacation rental owners that do follow the rules. We do pay the taxes. We are licensed. We do have all the safety measures in place. We have regulation books. So we want the opportunity to have a discussion with council about these rules and possibly have a group of responsible vacation owner people, which we're all competing against each other, but not, to make this something that's workable for everyone involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Davis.
You're going to have to pull it down a little so we can hear you.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Davis. I live in Punta Gorda Isles. I own one house with my husband, and we're senior citizens. We're retired here. We live here year-round, but we travel a lot, and we have 14 people in our direct family and living in different states. We use Airbnb, and we use VRBO, and we use Marriott vacation homes, and sometimes other groups as well, smaller groups as well. When our 14, all of us are together, we have a 4-bedroom house, so we can sleep 8 very easily, but we have the other 6 in a nearby Airbnb. We've never had a problem with the with safety or anything. I would have a problem with bright lights on an exit, because I don't think, some of the children sleep with night lights, other children require complete darkness, and complete darkness for sleep is much more healthy medically. I believe that if you I don't mind having safety, and they all do. Everywhere we've stayed has always had smoke detectors, the extinguishers and so on. But I do believe that overly regulating and almost punitively regulating people would not really be necessary. The perception is not very good. Speaking of perceptions versus real data, how many people have been trapped in a rental house in Punta Gorda Isles lately? I have never heard of that happening. The other thing with the perception is it does appear to favor the developers of the condos downtown in the marketplace that are proposed, because they will have short-term rentals. It appears to favor Sunseeker and the hotels. And in my family, we prefer to stay in quiet neighborhoods, especially there's a house 2 doors from us, 2 or 3 doors from us. We've never had a problem with them. They're completely peaceful. All the renters have been either friendly or quiet, and both of those things are acceptable to me. Yeah, we don't need more government, and we don't need to have people suing us and costing the taxpayers more legal fees. So you have to be really careful when you're passing legislation to make sure that you don't cost us money in legal fees, and that we obey all the state and federal laws, and we don't favor one business over another. We've stayed from very northern tip of Nova Scotia and Canada in an Airbnb, all over the United States. We recently, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Lustig. I've used the services of Airbnb many times when I go back to my hometown of New York City and Jersey City. And one of the things that when I go, I don't rent an apartment, I usually rent a room in someone's home. I've even rented like literally a couch with somebody sleeping right next to me. One of the laws that they used in New York City was that the individual had to live on site in the apartment where you are renting the thing. I would ask the city attorney to check to see if that's still a legal requirement, and it's something that you may use if you have an owner-occupied dwelling, that they can lease their spare bedrooms while they're there. They can be available to, if there's a problem in the unit, that they would be held responsible, and or they could have senior citizens live in the, to solve part of the housing crisis. You could have an individual rent one room and then have the Airbnb take the other rooms. I think that's a novel idea. I just thought of it. If there's a law that's, that you could regulate it this way and that it's acceptable within the regulations, I think that's an amicable situation for the Airbnb owners and for the people who want to rent space within the housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Tim Ritchie. Boy, I love Ronald Reagan. Less government. Our country was doing good with Ronnie.
Can you speak up, please? I can't hear you.
I said our country was doing good with Ronnie, President Ron Reagan. Matter of fact, I was very lucky. He happened to be he lived in the city my mother and father did, Pacific Palisades. We've got Vanguard, Blackstone, BlackRock out there purchasing houses in our neighborhoods when they go up for sale, all across this country. Owner-occupied is completely ridiculous. And I'll tell you, who's ever there with a senior citizen, they better be well equipped to take care of that senior citizen. I've taken care of a senior citizen. Sadly, we walked him out in full honor with a flag right across the street from Mr. Gary and his lovely wife. That's where my mother lives. My next door neighbor, Mr. Bagani, and I had a nice conversation before I left. He caught me. And him and Kitty, they come down here during season, and he said where he comes from, if there's a problem, they hit the owner with a $1,000 fine. Now, I think that sounds just fine. I've used Airbnb all over. In the entire time I know, I've had one problem on the Amberjack Canal. And that was taken care of at 2:30 in the morning by our fine City of Punta Gorda Police Department. And I was out there with my PA and my siren telling them to shut the hell up. Now, I don't care if people are running around naked, swimming in their pool, having fun at 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't even care if they're a little bit loud. But when you're cranking music and screaming and yelling and being disrespectful to your neighbors, well, I have a real problem with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to provide citizen comments on this agenda item? Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this agenda item? Last call. Does anyone wish to comment on this agenda item?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and 2 seconds to close the public hearing. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Bill.
I can't vote for this today. I just can't. I think what I'm going to suggest to all of y'all, something we've never done, our city manager brought it up in his comments. I think we need to have a workshop. It's legal. We can discuss it. We can't vote on it, but at the same time, we can go over all these different items. There's a couple of things in there. Just one up front where we said it could adversely affect property values. And a lot of you know, I used to be a realtor, and I contacted them, and the MLS that is in this area goes all the way up past Tampa, Perry, and across to Deltona and Daytona. And there's nothing in there. It's the third largest in the United States, and there's nothing in there that says that this affects property values. And I think that's something we need to look at. And I think we need to massage this together as a team rather than try to do it here today. So I'd like to suggest that we have a workshop.
Okay. Melissa?
So I was very vocal about this in the first meeting. We don't need any of this. I respectfully disagree that I don't think we need a workshop. We have everything we need in the city already by our code compliance. The police can be called if there is noise to go out there and deal with that. Trash cans are let out, etc. This is a slippery slope, and again, respectfully, I feel like this would leave us open for litigation. And we have everything that we already need, whether it be short-term, an annual renter, or just family members that are just getting a little bit crazy on a Saturday night. We already have all this in place in order to regulate this. We do not need more regulations. The people that are on the up and up, that are paying the taxes and are registered, they're already doing it right. There's no problem. It's the people that are underground, and good luck trying to figure those out. You're not going to get the people that are underground. You're basically putting more regulations on the ones that are doing it correctly, and I'm firmly against any of this.
Mark?
So I agree with Councilman Dryberg. I think a workshop would be in order, and I think we could work through some of these issues. But I would like to go on the record, with a couple of comments. First of all, I applaud the people that showed up today and gave their comments, because I put you in the category of serious operators who do it the way it should be done. And I think you do most, if not all, and even more of what's proposed in the ordinance. So I congratulate you for that. Unfortunately, we have to treat everybody equally and fairly, and this is about the fringe operators. And if this drives some of those fringe operators underground, or maybe they're already underground, well, that's the way it is. But I think this gives us more tools to root those out and address those. We had 18 items last week on our list of things that could have been in this ordinance, and I think we did have a mini workshop right there, and we took many of those out. I think the ordinance as drafted can use a little work, but in general, there's 3 kind of big picture things that I see. And the first is that it treats short-term rentals like any hotel or motel, which is what they are, in terms of safety equipment, in terms of inspections and licensing and tax payments. I mean, everybody needs to be treated equally, not just among the short-term rental community, but in any kind of hotel or motel industry. The second thing it does is it simply acknowledges and affirms the existing ordinances, and that may not seem like a big deal, but I think that is important, and it obligates the operators to inform their renters. And that's really kind of gets to the heart of the matter here, because a lot of these people that come down, they're not from, obviously, Punta Gorda, they're from out of state. They don't know what our codes are, they don't know what our regulations are, and they're living among our residents. And if they don't know what the codes are, they can't follow the codes. So it obligates the operators to make sure that their renters, their guests, understand what the codes are and follow them. And I think most people, once they know what they are, they're going to follow the rules. You've got just a few on the outside, the far fringe, that might object, but for the most part, if people know what the rules are, they're going to follow it. And all this does is obligate them to do that. The other thing it obligates the owners to do is be responsible. They have to be, somebody has to be available 24/7, 365. And actually, I think that relieves the burden on our code enforcement and our police, because as the ordinance says, they need to be available. And you mentioned it, actually, within an hour, you corrected a problem that you found out about, and it didn't take code enforcement and it didn't take police. That's exactly what should happen, and that's exactly what this ordinance does. And I applaud you for that, but I think again, it's the fringe that we need to address. So those are kind of the three big issues. This is really just an administrative ordinance. It doesn't regulate whether you can or can't. It doesn't regulate the length of stays, the frequency of stays. All it does is kind of make people good neighbors. There are a couple of things that if we get into a workshop, I do think that we need to include in some fashion occupancy limits, because I think overcrowding, when you have an overcrowding situation, that's kind of the root cause. If you have a bad one, chances are it's because they're overcrowded. And again, I reference your comment, you had 30 chairs set up there for a shower. Well, I think we have to address that. I know we have to do that by some kind. We can't just pull a number out of the air. And I've suggested to the city manager that maybe within the sewer code there might be some occupancy numbers that we could rely on. So I am looking to get more information on that as you ask, Greg, and I'll get that to you when I can. As far as holding the owners responsible, they do have to be held responsible. If the language is too vague, then maybe that is something that we need to address. We could do that in the workshop. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to have a massive lit up exit sign at every exit in my house either. So maybe that is something that could also be discussed. But by and large, I think the ordinance as presented is needed. It's important. I think it can be refined, and if that can be done in a workshop setting, I'm all for that.
Donna, anything?
I think I'm with Melissa. I think this is an overreach. I'm not in favor of it. I have to compare it to the famous sign ordinance, and I think Bill will remember this. It started off as a way to regulate open houses in right-of-ways. And it took 2 years, and then we ended up with what we ended up with, which is now you can have 4 signs and 2 flagpoles in your yard year-round, which I don't think was the intended result, nor was the lawsuit the intended result. So I think we have to tread really lightly here. I will also say that I went out of my way to poll a number of people living across Punta Gorda about their view. Not one of them said this is something that we need to address. It's, you can have bad homeowners, not just people who are using their houses to maybe supplement income or, take care of out-of-town guests. I just don't like it. And I think, and if we were to have a workshop, I'd rather we had a workshop of people who are in this business and let them talk about what they would do, as a couple of people have volunteered. I mean, I have no special expertise in this matter, and I live across the street from one of these, which is managed by, I think it's whatever Marriott's program is. We had out-of-town people all last winter. Most of them were foreign. They were fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Melissa and Donna on this one. I read this ordinance over the weekend and my head was ready to explode. I don't think we need a 12-page ordinance to regulate vacation rentals. We've heard from several of you by email as well, and I appreciate that you did that because it really put a lot of things in perspective for me. There is a lot of stuff in this ordinance, in this proposed ordinance, it's not an ordinance yet, that borders on, in my mind, overreach by the government. I think we already have regulations in place at the state level, at the county level, and at the city level to be registered, licensed owners of properties. And as long as the property owners are doing that, they comply with a third of what's already in this ordinance. I think there's a lot of things that border on legal implications, in my mind. I think when it says their perception is that they're more likely to disturb the peace in the neighborhood, where's the proof of that? It says they're more likely to violate the city ordinances. Where is their proof of that? The city did a little recap for us a couple of weeks ago, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total official complaints that were filed, and these are from January 1st to today, and these were very minor things that could have all been taken care of if we had an accurate phone number for the owner of the property. That could have easily been taken care of and been done with. It says that it could potentially negatively affect property taxes. Where's the proof of that? I don't think we have a big enough problem to be talking about things like that. To be intrusive and require inspections of each of the houses? Absolutely not. To have lighting inside the houses, the exit sides? Absolutely not. I absolutely would oppose that. First of all, there's this property rights element in the comp plan, and that violates property rights if you're a property owner, in my opinion, because we're not supposed to be treating one person differently than anybody else, just like the sign ordinance. Everything is supposed to be treated exactly the same. So all of these things, it says it could potentially violate health, safety, and applicable regulations. I don't even understand that. Now you want to put something in there to require that they have those 3 inspections or not inspections, those 3 licenses by the state, the county, and the city. I'm fine with that. And if you want to have a 24-hour contact person, I'm fine with that. But make it a very succinct, short list. We don't need a 12-page ordinance. That's my feeling on it.
Can I ask a question? Somebody brought this up to me, and I'm not sure if this is the case or not. Is there a like a 3-strike rule on fire? Yeah, I just lost the word. Yes. So if your smoke alarm, thank you. Ooh, your smoke alarm goes off and you're being called to a residence more than 3 times, isn't there something already on the books? And there's a reason why I'm going down this road. If there is, where there's something on the books that if you get called out 3 times, you get a fine or whatnot.
That's for security systems if the alarm goes off.
Okay.
And police and fire are called.
You don't necessarily have to come down, but my point is this. We have something like this in place when it comes to that. So I would be fine if you wanted to do something blanketed for everybody. This has to be everybody in the city of Punta Gorda. If we're going to do something, it needs to be, everybody needs to be in compliance, just like our trash cans, just like our other ordinances that we have. And, you know, maybe that's something that would be more palatable for people that maybe are having trouble with short-term, that listen, as an owner and you know, the police or fire, whomever we deem, because I'm assuming noise is going to be the biggest issue, right? So let's just take noise. You get called out for noise, 3 strikes, and you get a fine. And I don't even know if that's, you know, if you're able to do that. But I'm just saying that would, to me, would be the only way that I think would be fair. But again, it has to be everybody. I've had 40 people at my house for a baby shower, and it was perfectly fine. I mean, you know, I just, that's the only thing I can think of.
So,
Mark,
a couple comments. First of all, I agree we have to treat everybody equally, but everybody already in Punta Gorda is not treated equally because, and I don't know how it is in Burnt Store Meadows, but I know for a fact that in Seminole Lakes, you can't have short-term rentals. You can't rent for less than 6 months. So we have a community within Punta Gorda already that has restrictions on short-term rentals. Now they can do that because they're an HOA, they have deed restrictions. So it's already not fair. And I don't know how it is downtown, but I can tell you in the Isles, it's an issue. And as far as the report that we got, I didn't want to bring this up, but our reporting is inaccurate because I know of several reports, both to code and the police, on the street that I live on in the past year that are not on that report. So where are they? I don't think so. We want to ask, well, how many? What is the volume? How can we determine what the issues are? I don't think we have correct reporting. So I reject that it's not an issue. It is the #1 comment. I'm not saying I get comments every day, but it is the #1 comment that I receive on council. I've got this problem next to me, and can't you do something about it? And the answer is, not really. You just got to call in a code violation, and we don't even know if we can get a hold of the person to make them responsible for it. So I reject the reporting because I don't think it's right. I think we already have discrepancies within the city in different communities, and we should make this more equitable for everybody. I think that a workshop is in order to work through this. The current as proposed, I certainly wouldn't vote for it either, but I think a workshop is what's necessary to get this right for everybody.
Bill.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Peterman. I think, you know, the ordinance is there. I think we need something, but I think we could pare it down a
Way
whole
down.
lot. Way down.
Like, maybe 5 or 6 basic rules.
Correct, like a good working number where they can be contacted, things like that. And then also what the fees are in writing so they know it. And also maybe like a 3-strike rule, if there's constantly, we get 3 in a row, then some sort of a fine mechanism. But I think we need to pare it down, but I think we need something on the books.
And I've already asked the city clerk's office to issue us all a quarterly report listing all of the vacation rentals throughout the city, because I think that's also important that we monitor how many there are, just so if there is a major change at any point in the not-too-distant future, we can maybe address it down the road. But I think my personal opinion on all of this is that I think we come up with a very short, succinct list of basic rules that must be followed, and I don't think any responsible property owner that's in this program will have a problem with it, because you're already doing all of what we talked about. You have to be registered with the state, with the county, with the city, pay all your bed taxes and all of that stuff that has to be done. Let's talk about occupancy limits. Let's talk about parking on the, all the basic city ordinances. Those are already covered. We don't need those included in an ordinance. I think we just need basic rules. And maybe you put in place in your own homes house rules that must be followed by all your guests. I think that covers a lot more bases than making it a government overreach, and we surely don't need a 12-page ordinance on this. I absolutely reject this. So
I think we have consensus for rejecting this, correct?
As far as I'm concerned.
Well, it would require a motion to
Right.
deny
So I
the
will-
approval at first reading.
I will make a motion to deny GA-06-2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny GA-06-2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So I'd like to make a motion to establish a workshop so that we can discuss this and come up with a short list of what should be in an ordinance.
Yeah, I'll second that for a point of discussion. We might not need the workshop if we could give instructions to our fine attorney to pare this thing down with some of the language we've discussed here today.
I don't know that we need a workshop, quite honestly. I think we should have workshops on other things, and Greg and I have talked about this a couple of different times. But for this one, I think we have enough information that's been provided to us by the property owners that are the responsible ones, and maybe that has helped us kind of formulate what has to go into a basic, it's just a list of basically house rules that I think everyone should follow, and they must sign that document when they register with the city. And I don't think we need more than that. That's just my personal feeling on it.
Yep, I agree.
So is there a second for Mark's motion?
I second for purpose of discussion.
Okay. So we have to vote on the motion. All those in favor of having a workshop, say aye. Motion fails. Thank you. Okay. So we just go back to the drawing board on this one. And Mr. Levin?
Until I receive any further direction from the City Council, the matter is tabled.
Okay. Good. All right. Very good. And thank you all for your comments. We really appreciate it. Understand completely where you're coming from. And seriously, when I read this thing over the weekend, I was just like, we can't do this. This is crazy. So, all right.
Could we get a nay vote real quick, just for the record?
Sorry?
Could we get a nay vote for the record?
Oh,
a nay vote.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. So all those opposed to a workshop, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Consent agenda. There's a memorandum of understanding.
Motion is denied.
Yeah, motion was denied.
Motion, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, motion is denied. I'm sorry, I got backwards on that one. Okay. Anyone wanting to pull anything on the consent agenda, which includes the memorandum of understanding between the City of Punta Gorda and the Suncoast Professional Firefighters and Paramedics, the resolution changing the dates of the regularly scheduled council meetings for July, August, and December of 2024, and approval of the October 18th minutes. Does anyone have anything they'd like to pull?
Move to approve.
Discuss
Oh, I'm sorry.
the dates of the meeting.
Okay. So we would need a motion to approve 7A and 7C on consent.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 7A and 7C on the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7B, go ahead.
So, as I recall, last July, we were all very unhappy with the date that we wound up choosing for the council meeting that was around July 4th. This would be July 3rd. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense if we move this meeting to either the Friday or the Monday? And that way it frees up the holiday weekend for us. And in speaking with the city manager, we kind of felt like the 1st, which is Monday, would be a better day for a meeting rather than the Wednesday right before July 4th.
I'm okay with that. Doesn't bother me.
July
1st.
And then the following would be July 10th. So you'd have, because you're going to have back-to-back meetings, and then we're off until the end of August. So rather than do the Friday and then the following Wednesday, do the Monday, and then the second Wednesday after. So
We'd have to find out if the museum is available for that day.
That, and we'd have one-on-ones the previous week on Thursday and Friday.
Okay, I don't have well, wait a minute, let me make sure. I don't even know what's on my calendar for July. I can't think beyond today. I can't pull it up at the moment, so, all right, let's find out if we can get the museum and if everything works out calendar-wise for everyone before we vote on that then.
Okay.
Can we bring this one back to the next meeting?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Do we need to vote on that?
We could vote to accept it provisionally if the museum is available, and that way you don't have to bring it back to the next meeting unless there's a problem.
I do agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll vote to accept the dates as submitted, with the exception of the first July meeting, pending.
Why don't we table this item until the next city council meeting so that the resolution reads correctly at the time that you adopt it.
Okay, that was kind of where I was going with it.
That's fine.
Okay, so we need a motion to table it.
Motion to table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table the agenda item 7B, the resolution for changing the dates of the council meetings for 2024. Excuse me. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, may we have...
Mayor, we have a short break.
Yeah, before you do that, and before I lose the train of thought, the motion that was just made to table was made with the inclusion of the fact that it was being tabled until the next city council meeting, so that procedurally we don't have to then remove it from the table at that time.
Motion to table till next city council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table agenda item 7B to the next city council meeting on November 15. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, under the regular agenda, we...
May we have...
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, that's a good idea. We're going to take a 10-minute break. You're right, and I was going to do that. It's turned on. We all set? Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, if I might, before we move on to the next item, I just want to make sure that I have the direction of the City Council clear with respect to the vacation rental ordinance. Do you want me to pare it down and come back with a different version, or do you want the issue just to lay until there's some decision to make a further direction to the city attorney?
I am against having any direction.
I just disagree with my fine colleague over here. I just think we need a few things, at least in writing, like a good name, a good contact number, that kind of stuff. I think we need that in there.
I agree.
I would like to maybe see the application changed, and that's all we need, and have the application changed to include some basic, maybe 5 or just not a real long list, 5 or 6 things that they must be registered with the state, with the county, with the city. That's first and foremost. That they should probably have house rules that they issue to their tenants, and that includes how many people are allowed to be in the house based on what the fire code allows, if that's a thing. I don't think it has to be real extensive. I think it's just some basic things, and they must agree to that. And the 24-hour contact. I think that's really critical. And you know, one of the problems we did have was that some of the phone numbers we had or contact information we had for the primary owner was not available when we needed it, when they had to be called. So just basic things that could be incorporated into the application for their business tax permit. I don't see why we need anything more than that. Does anybody disagree?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I thought the one piece in there about the city producing kind of a pamphlet or a summary of what the code of ordinances are, so that the owners could have that for their guests, is important, because, like I said, they don't know. If they don't know what the ordinances are, they don't know whether they follow them or not. Like parking on the grass, like leaving your garbage cans out all the time. Like, you know, there's a lot of. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but that was part of the ordinance, and I thought that was actually worthwhile.
So, as you know, before I draft an ordinance and we advertise it for public hearing, the matter comes before the City Council for, it's not a workshop necessarily, but a discussion in sunshine, which is what I did in the previous hearing on the meeting on the matter, and had a list of items that you helped me pare down to the ones that you didn't want in the ordinance and were okay with the others, at least in concept. What I'd like to do is something similar to that following the discussion today, and substantially pare down what I hear should be or could be in the ordinance, and bring that back to you again as a discussion item before I draft up another ordinance for public hearing, so that that ordinance will be consistent with what the intention of the City Council would be, rather than spend that additional lawyer time to come up with an ordinance that may still not.
I don't think we need an ordinance. I think we amend the application that they file with the city to include some of these things that we talked about. I don't think we need an ordinance. It's overreach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we go back to the saying that, okay, so you have to have a 24-hour number. Super. All right, who's going to call that number? And then they don't answer, and then what do? Nothing. There's nothing to do. We can't enforce. Okay, so then we call again saying we better have a good number. And now you're taking up staff and police and fire time for all this stuff that we already have code compliance on. And, you know, again, as far as occupancy, I don't know if that's a thing, but I can tell you one thing. I've had a lot of people in my house, and I don't think that that is fair, that we are infringing on their rights with occupancy.
The occupancy is about people staying there overnight, not attending a party.
Yeah.
The issue about the phone number, that's very simple. I mean, if the phone number is not good and we can't get a hold of you within an hour, then there are consequences, and that's why you need an ordinance.
So, but what
because if it happens 2 times, 3 times, whatever, then you pull their license.
You can't.
And yes, you can. That's why you have an ordinance.
No, you can't.
So, all right. So let me go back first of all and make sure that we're all on the same page as a starting point. We do not presently regulate vacation rentals.
Correct.
What we do is as any business is, that takes place within the city, we require that a vacation rental apply for and obtain a local business tax receipt. That's basically just a tax. And before you can get that local business tax receipt, you have to show evidence that you have the required licensure from the state. And I'm not even sure if we require that they show that they're registered for the county's tourist development tax. I'm not sure.
Well, it should.
But that's the only thing that we do with respect to the vacation rentals at this present time.
So we add a few lines to that.
Well, it's not, the local business tax receipt is not intended to be a regulatory device. And so it's not enforceable in any way if somebody doesn't give us that information. So the intention of this ordinance was to establish a registration program for vacation rentals above and beyond the simple business tax receipt. Now, I can make that as simple or as complicated as you may wish. Simply getting the information that we can contact people, 24/7 and hope that they respond within an hour's time. I could do that. The reason why the ordinance is as detailed as it is because it was a regulatory ordinance that went beyond simply a matter of registration. So, and as I indicated, I have reviewed ordinances from around the state, many of which were substantially more detailed and onerous than ours. I would not support, from a legal perspective, you can direct me otherwise, an ordinance that would limit the number of occupants in the house, limit the number of bedrooms in the house like some of the jurisdictions do, because I asked our Florida, our fire marshal and the fire department if there are any existing building code regulations affecting the number of people that can occupy a residence as distinguished from regulations regarding occupancy of businesses. And the answer, or commercial establishment, and the answer was no. So I wasn't going to establish something without having any type of basis for that establishment. And just, I heard a lot of talk about the exit signs. There is no provision in the code or in the draft ordinance for exit signs. The only thing that was provided in there was the sort of plug-in emergency lights that you can just plug into an outlet that when the power goes out, a light comes on, just so that people that aren't used to living there would have the opportunity to be able to see if power goes out.
But we can't do that just for a rental. You'd have to make every house in the city do that.
No, we can, and we're only doing it for single-family rentals in the defined general single-family zoning district, so that we're not talking about condos, we're not talking about single-family residents elsewhere. I mean, there are certain things that we can do by virtue of the nature that it's being held out for occupancy that's different than long-term rental or non-rental purposes. So there are some things that we can do to distinguish short-term rentals in the way of regulation that are different than a single-family home. And that's what makes the ordinance as complicated as it is to be clear that the things that are being required are for life safety purposes, assuming that people are going to be occupying the house that aren't used to being in that house, and in the case of an emergency might know intuitively or from their own experience, where the exits are, who to call, things of that nature. I'd be fine if we didn't do anything further with respect to this ordinance, but if you want to do more with respect to the ordinance, I just want to make sure that we're not wasting the city attorney's time on something that you won't be happy with. And that's why I would be asking for a more detailed direction as to how you want to proceed. And to the extent that we can have those discussions, not necessarily in a separate workshop, but as a discussion item like we did last time, that may be helpful if you want to move forward with this ordinance, with an ordinance relating to vacation rentals.
And if I could further complicate it, from a staff perspective, what I heard was we look at our code, we know what the general list of rules are that we talked about. We review the occupancy requirements we may have anywhere else in our codes. We put that list together, we bring it back for you. It's a short list. Here's basically rules of conduct. You can post it on your refrigerator. You can talk to the renters about it. City council can approve it when it comes back, and then we can, add it to whatever's required as far as the registration, and separate from that, or the business tax receipt, separate from that, the registration process that has that short list that you discussed. And that's pretty much it.
That's what I think we should do. Keep it simple. Melissa?
Mr. Levin, I've got a question for you that it's probably not going to be simple. If Mr. Smith has a short-term rental and Mr. Smith is not complying with code compliance, he's got trash cans out, he's got ABC, different code issues, can the city at any point in time tell Mr. Smith that he no longer can use his home as a short-term rental?
At the present time, no.
So everything that we put into place, regardless of what we put in, regardless of what we do, if Mr. Smith still continues to be a bad neighbor, we will not be able to tell him he cannot use it as short-term rental.
No, but we can tell him he can't be a bad neighbor. I mean, we have code enforcement.
Just as if I was a bad neighbor would be the same consequences as if Mr. Smith is a bad neighbor as a short-term rental.
But the distinction is that with a regulatory ordinance, similar to what was on the table, if they become repeat violators of the city code for whatever it is that they're violating, then we at that point have at the time the opportunity to revoke the certificate of registration that they were provided, because that requires compliance with the code, and so that would then prevent them from getting their renewal if they're not in compliance. It would prevent them from operating without a certificate of registration. So there is some measure of protection for someone that complies with the law in the city's ordinance, in that they obtain a certificate of vacation rental registration, and then have that revoked, the opportunity for it to be revoked if they commit code enforcement violations. If someone is going to go and conduct a vacation rental without complying with the registration requirement, then that would also be a violation of the ordinance, which is remediable through code enforcement as well.
So this does enhance our ability to enforce the existing codes.
If you can prove
it. It does. It does.
And there you go. And that's what we need. I mean, it's not banning them, but right now we don't. I mean, we have codes and they're just not enforced. This makes it puts it at a different perspective. That if they want to operate a business, they have to do it, and they have to be good neighbors, and there are consequences if they don't.
And it requires someone to be immediately responsive to that complaint. Right now, the primary way that the city enforces its codes for any violation is by means of code enforcement. And code enforcement is intended to bring people into compliance, not to penalize people. So you essentially get the first bite at the apple if you violated the code. And there's no penalty for violating the code the first time. If you are a repeat violator, you come back before the Code Enforcement Board, and it may be subject to a penalty at that point in time. But in order for that process to work, we need to know who is responsible for that property. And the way the law works is that the property owner is responsible for the property, not necessarily the tenant. Because when we impose a lien for violation of a code provision, the lien goes against the property. And so the property owner is the one that's got the control to make sure that their tenants are complying with the law so that they don't get a lien put on their property. So there's this process that's not perfect, but it's what we have to work with, because under the state law, that's the only way we can actually enforce our codes in that administrative process that we do. So a lot of what's in this code, the ordinance before you, is geared towards the way that we have for enforcement, which is cumbersome. But it gives us an opportunity to do things that we couldn't ordinarily do for someone who's a single-family home that's making a lot of noise and creating a problem. And among other things, under code enforcement, under the statute that was adopted not that long ago, people cannot make anonymous complaints with respect to violations that the neighbors are creating. And that may inhibit a neighbor from turning in their neighbor for making for the vacation renter from violating the ordinance. So, look, there is some value in an ordinance to address vacation rentals. If that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't have a proliferation of them around the state. The extent of regulation, I think, is a valid consideration. The Indian Rocks Beach ordinance, which is maybe the most recent one, is the one that some of this ordinance comes from, but it actually comes from bits and pieces from all around the state and ignores or doesn't include bits and pieces from all around the state, things that I thought might be difficult to enforce, things that might be arguably a violation of equal protection. So I did my best to try to deal with the kind of regulation that is going on around the state, but at the same time minimize the potential for lawsuits against the city for trying to do something that made sense.
And back to what I said, overly complicated, again, is the direction that we heard during discussion was we're going to do what council had said, summarize that list. It basically mirrors the codes we have now, bring that back to you to show you what it is. We'll research the occupancy rates. And, the benefit that I see, which really means nothing, but to having that list that does nothing more than really enforce the codes we have, like Councilperson Lockhart said, is that if I come down here to Punta Gorda and I have a vacation rental and I'm leaving, I might think, well, it'd be nice if I take all my trash and put it out the curb so someone else doesn't have to. Well, they could have just violated one of our codes. But by having that short list that you talked about, we can reiterate what those codes are, and that could be in a specific form that people sign that, again, can be hung on the refrigerator and people know, a bit about what's going on in the city that they're renting into, so that they don't unknowingly even violate codes, and that the property owner knows these are exact codes that we expect you to follow. We have the contact information, the registration. Move on.
Donna?
We left this discussion, I was feeling pretty good about the direction, and now it feels like we're kind of right back where we started from.
Yeah.
So as long as we have the opportunity to look at it and agree not to pass it, I'm okay with trying to come up with something. But again, I have not seen anything that says we have this horrific problem that we have to solve. I mean, I just find it a little, it's overbearing, it's overkill, and it feels like son of sign code. I mean, that's just my feeling.
Yeah, I agree. Bill?
I respectfully disagree. I think what we are, I think we're ahead of the game here a little bit. This is prevalent. I saw this past weekend at my IMO class in Daytona Beach, that these people are coming into all these cities and buying up these homes for Airbnb. It's a big business. And I think if we get on the front end of it, it's going to cause us less headaches. So I think we're down the right area if we ask our attorney to condense everything, and then we can agree to it and look at it together.
All right, so how about this? Why don't we have the city manager put together a list based on our conversation today, a very basic list of some of the things that we would like to see enforced. That would be to make sure that all the registrations are in place and, very basic things that we talked about. And he presents that at an upcoming council meeting. Council approves that list, and then the city attorney can draft an ordinance from that list, if there's going to be an ordinance.
I'm not willing to say I'm going to approve anything at a time.
I'm okay with that.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. The ordinance, all that does is make the registration process. It doesn't have to be all the things that are in the code, but it's just the registration process, because then there's the mechanism that there's consequences to not abiding by the code, and which we don't have today. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, I think that's the direction we'll go. We'll have the city manager put together a list that we can bring back to an upcoming council meeting. We can discuss the list and see if there's anything. I mean, I know we don't have unanimous consensus on this, but we do have majority consensus that will come back with a basic list. And I'm not talking about 10, 12, 15 items on it. I'm talking about some very basic things that we talked about. And then we will work with that list to eventually form an ordinance from it. Everybody okay on that?
Yes.
Except Melissa. I know Melissa doesn't agree. And I appreciate that. That's fine. We don't always have to agree on everything. That's not what we're here for. So
if you decide it goes to an ordinance.
If we decide it even has to go to an ordinance. So, all right.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion, because I really just did not get a feel for where we were headed on it.
I think we need to keep it simple, the KISS principle. So, but something that, we can have in place, that we can say we did it, we have an ordinance in place if we have to have an ordinance, or we just have rules that must be followed, and the city clerk's office will have a checklist that the property owner must sign off on when they fill out their business tax receipt. That's, I guess, probably the easiest way to handle it. So,
like I said, that's not going to work. It's not going to work because there's nothing that the clerk would have the authority to do if they don't check all the checklists and say, well, we're not going to issue you local business tax, because she doesn't have the authority to do that. So if you're going to do some sort of regulation, it's got to be in the form of an ordinance. I can make it as simple as you all desire, and making this ordinance shorter, certainly I can do a lot easier than making it longer. So, we'll come before you with a shopping list of things that maybe you would like to see or not like to see, resulting in a short ordinance for your consideration.
okay. All right. Moving along. The next item is legislative priorities discussion with the city lobbyist.
Yep, I can just nutshell this kind of. Of course, we had to supply the legislature with the top priorities that we have, specifically related to water quality. We had discussed this before. We took the top 3 water quality ones, which were seawall replacement, septic to sewer, wastewater treatment plant. And the discussion before, when we actually had smaller numbers, was, well, let's ask for everything we need, because that's what everyone else is doing. The county's over $20 million. The school board has $30 million for an ask. So we put everything in there. We then have one sheets that we have to supply to them on the top 3, not all of these, of course, because we also add things that will be heard in subsequent years. And things that we've started in prior years, septic to sewer, for example, where we got $5.5 million. That one sheeter can certainly include language that multi-year projects can be phased for financing if that's more palatable for approvals, so that these numbers come down. But the discussion is really, do we want to continue with the full amount that's in the initial applications, or do we want to ensure that they understand that these can be phased as far as financing? Wastewater treatment, for example, multi-year project, septic to sewer multi-year project, seawall multi-year project, but we're also in process with those, which is important. Septic to sewer, for example, we're waiting for the signed contract so that we can actually take that to design and then meet with the community. So how do you want the ultimate one-sheeters to reflect the amount of request for financial state appropriation, not grants, but appropriation from the legislature?
I just had a question. I know Baynard is not a city street yet, but I know it needs work, and it could be eventually. But is that something that, we want to kind of keep on our list? Maybe the county should be asking for that? I mean, I understand we're like in that kind of...
Yeah, so here's a couple of things that have happened since the last meeting. The lobbyist for us had contacted Greg and myself and asked us for, she needed our legislative priority list right now, like that day, because they had a 2 o'clock meeting that afternoon with some of our state legislators. And then she asked for the exact amounts that we were asking for on all of that stuff. And so we basically sent her this list that's the first agenda item on this package here for today's meeting. And then Greg also supplied her the capital projects document that goes with each of those projects, but primarily focusing on the top 3 on the list. So here's another thing that happened since the last meeting. The county has put their list out there for publication, and it's $46 million, composed of multiple projects that they need money for. And now the school district is asking for $30 million for partial costs to rebuild the Port Charlotte Middle School. Then that's I believe she said it was a $78 million project, and they're asking the state for $30 million to assist with the funding on that. I don't know where the rest of the money is going to come from for that project, but $78 million is substantial then, so they're only asking for 30. Only asking for 30 is kind of. I guess the concern that I have is that all told, if we put all of these items in to the state, we're not going to get them. I mean, they're going to laugh at us because, you're looking at 46 or 48 million for the county and 30 million for the school district, and heaven only knows if there's other things that may be incorporated in the county's list before it's all said and done. But tiny little Punta Gorda, which is 10% of Charlotte County, we're not going to get all of this. They're not even going to look at half of these items on the list. So I hesitate to keep them all on the list that we submit to the state because I think it's not going to happen. So I would be more inclined to focus on the 3 water quality initiatives that really seem to be pressing for us. And I think perhaps we maybe adjust some of those numbers down slightly so that we can do it as a tiered ask list for the next few years, because I don't think we're going to get the kind of numbers that we're hoping to get on any of these 3. Mark.
So from purely a negotiations perspective, if you don't ask, you'll never get. And I think the tendency would be is if we reduce the numbers, regardless of what the number is, the tendency is going to be to come with something less than that as would you take. So I think focusing on those top 3 is a good idea. I wouldn't reduce the number, but I do think letting them know that this can be spread out over a period of time is probably a good negotiating strategy.
I'm fine with that.
Well, for example, with seawalls, to that point, right now the actual number that we anticipate needing for the delta between federal funding and total cost is $4.7 million. So that's what was submitted for the seawall number instead of the 7.5, because now we're closer to what we're thinking is 87.5% instead of 75%, so we could reduce that some. Septic to sewer, we got 5.5 last year, and of course with this 15 million, that takes us to 20 million, and realistically the project's going to be 40 million, so we're talking about half. Right now what we've submitted is right over $30 million, because that's the most recent cost estimates we have. Wastewater treatment plant, of course, $10 million, that's a multi-year project, and if we could get any of that over a period of time, it all helps. So yes, that would certainly allow us to. One thing we have to make them aware is what the scope of our need is and what's the unfunded portions that we could use help with, and if they can do any portion of that, which is to your point, then over time that would be great. So
I'm fine with leaving the dollar amounts the same as what's been submitted to our lobbyists, because they've already had a preliminary discussion. They're trying to seek sponsors in the State House and State Senate so that they will push the bill through to help get some of these funds approved. And is everybody okay with just focusing on those top 3 projects?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, with the senator that's going to be moving up, of course, in leadership, and his main priorities are water quality initiatives, and certainly, our priorities are water quality initiatives as well. We'd really like to get septic to sewer. We'd really like to get the seawall program completed, because anytime we have, downpours or runoff and we don't have seawalls, there's more going into our canal systems, and of course, wastewater treatment is always, something that we can improve on.
And also, we have one of our lobbyists who is a water quality specialist. That's kind of his forte. And he's been working with Greg's office to apply for grant funding on some of these projects that may help us get funds a different way. And so it may not be quite as critical to have them on this list. But I'm fine with the top 3. And I think if we go with that for this year's list, let's see what floats to the surface at the state. And hopefully we'll get something.
And then we could reference a multi-year potentially.
Sure. Yeah.
If it needs to be multi-year to get the A funding amount at all, then.
Do we want to maybe next year look to maybe put Bayfront on our list?
That'll be a discussion, certainly up to you, of course. I think we'll know a lot more by next year, so you can have that discussion.
That's what I was thinking, that maybe, yeah.
And even with Baynard, that's nice if we could get money for that, especially if they could say, well, we'll support that if you go to FDOT and make their head spin around because you want more money than they have programmed right now for this. But we have a meeting with the commissioners on the 21st, and of course that's a great joint topic that we'll be discussing.
Yeah, that's on the agenda as well.
Yep.
Okay. So, all right, so we'll do the top 3 projects for now and leave it at that, yeah? Everybody okay?
And then we will also be discussing, more of the mitigation for drainage and downtown flooding, et cetera. We'll have those discussions. Obviously, that's not, a cheap or quick discussion, but we'll continue to have those as well.
Okay. All right, very good.
Not to forget the EOC. We still have that.
Well, yeah, I know. It's just, unfortunately, we have more projects than we can deal with at the moment, so.
And we need a place to put that so we can really hone in on what's needed there.
Well, and also, I think a year from now, hopefully, we'll have FEMA all settled in, and
we'd like to think so.
well, please, Lord, let it be.
That would be very nice.
Okay. All right, so then the last agenda item on the regular agenda is the annual evaluation of the city manager. Mr. Payne, you're up.
And I'll just say my piece right now that I appreciate the candor and the evaluations you've provided. It's been a long, difficult year on a lot of levels, and hopefully as we move forward, we'll continue to improve everything that is making the city function and be the great city it is. But thank you for the time to do this and for the comments that you've made. Certainly appreciate it.
Good morning, Jeff Payne, HR Manager. So this is our one time a year we get together and review the annual performance of our city manager. And pulling the information together, I see that he started with us in August 24th of 2020. Hard to believe it's been 3 years now. But you guys each did a performance evaluation. Thank you for doing so. Thank you for doing it in a timely fashion as well. It's much appreciated. So each council person graded him for his performance in the last year, provided him with comments and such. I'm not going to go through all that unless you guys really want to, but I'm going to let you guys have any discussion that you want. The 2 things that I want to get out of this today are he's eligible for up to a 4% increase. All general employees are eligible for up to 4% with the budget that you passed. And then second, an effective date of that increase. He did start on August the 24th, so that would be his date that he's eligible. Past years, he has taken it on October the 1st as a voluntary measure. So you have a choice of dates there. You can make it effective.
I thought we had decided last year that we would use October 1st as the annual review time. I think we talked about that at the last year's council meeting when we did this last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it should be,
10 more?
I believe, October 1st going forward annually.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Mark?
Can we authorize more than the 4%?
That was going to be my question.
Well, I guess council can do what you choose to do. The budget, Mr. Levin, if you want to weigh in, says 4% was authorized in the budget. Could they then override that budget and give him anything they want?
Well, it would require a budget amendment, but the city council is the city council. They can do as they please.
Okay.
Melissa? I mean, I would love to give Greg more, but I think we have this budgeted in. I think we need to stick with the up to 4%.
Bill?
I've dealt with a lot of city managers in my tenure. And I got to tell you, Greg's one of the finest I've ever met. And his grasp of our city, even though we realize it's been 3 years, it is amazing what he knows and how he represents our city. I think we could work, if we gave him a 1% more, like say 5%, does that kill the budget? Or do we have to do a whole lot of stuff to make that happen?
I'm good with 5%, whether it kills the budget or not. We'll figure it out. But 5%, he's worth the 5% for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Good man.
I am happy with anything you give me. So.
Let's put it this way. Is that going to create a problem for you with the budget in any way?
Not necessarily with the budget. When we look at other employees, they're getting 4%. I'm certainly happy with 4%. Or less if you so choose. But.
Well, it definitely would not be less. I'm sorry to say you're sticking around for a while, pal.
I would make a motion to make the increase 5% this year, effective October 1st.
Second.
Before we do that, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, when we talk about 4%, employees, is that everybody gets 4%, or is there some variation based on their review? I mean, it could be up to 4%, or
Yes.
do some people get less than 4% is my question.
Yes.
Some people
The
can get
answer to
less
that
than
is
4%.
yes. It is a merit-based increase.
So it's on performance and not just everybody gets
Yes,
the same
ma'am.
thing?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we've got the most talented, best city manager I've ever seen. And truly, I wish we could give you more than 5%, but, I think...
No, and I don't disagree. I'm just asking, though, if he's concerned about parity or whatever, fairness.
You're overly kind.
Well, you've managed the city in a year of complete turmoil since the hurricane, and in all these ungodly situations you've had to deal with, everything has seamlessly flowed thoroughly through, and we couldn't have asked for somebody better to be doing this for us on the city.
I just want to make a comment, because we're going to make a vote, and I'm going to say nay, and it's going to make me look bad. However, I want to make sure Greg understands the fact that has nothing to do with his performance. I think we all agree we'd love to give you as much as we can, but we have a lot of things on the list. We've got a lot of projects coming up that we're going to have to answer to with where our money's being appropriated, and it's already been on the books up to 4%, so I just want to go on record when I vote it down.
No applause. Thank you. Okay.
Well, can I just make a suggestion, though, in the next budget cycle?
Yeah.
So when we do a budget, can we just maybe assume that Greg is going to be as spectacular this year as he was in the past year, and at least have it budgeted, so if we choose to award it, it's there, instead of, like this?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think here's the difference. Greg is the only employee that the city council is responsible for doing an annual review on now, since things have been transitioned with the clerk's office. So this is the only thing we really have a voice in as far as salary increases, and I don't have a problem approving a 5% increase. I think he's absolutely earned every cent of it, and then some. I wish there was more we could do. So we have a motion on the floor and a second to approve a 5% increase. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries 4-1. And thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do.
Well, thank you for putting up with me. It's
Thank you, Council.
a lot of interesting scenarios we go through every day and every night, 24/7. But I will say, in response to the clap up there, that the hire date and my performance evaluation date is August 24th, and it's supposed to be retroactive to August 24th, and we voluntarily made it October 1st to make sure it matched everyone else and that there wasn't. So there is that.
Okay. All right, City Clerk.
Good afternoon. City Clerk Sarah Welch for the record. Under announcement of vacancies, we have one regular seat on the General Employees Pension Board. We have one regular and 2 alternate seats on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board and 1 alternate on the Planning Commission. Under nominations, we have the city representative for the Charlotte County Marine Advisory Committee. Mr. John Welsh has expressed an interest in continuing to serve and is eligible to do so. If council desires, he may be nominated at this time.
Move to nominate and approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to nominate and reappoint John Welsh as the Charlotte County Marine Advisory Committee city representative. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
As part of the nomination process, a letter will be sent to the Charlotte County Board of County Commissioners. We have prepared a letter for the mayor's signature.
Okay.
Also under nominations, we have 3 regular seats on the Punta Gorda Isles Canal Advisory Committee. We have Mr. Jake Dye, Ronald Ludwig, and Harry Wahlberg, who currently serve and are eligible to continue serving and have expressed an interest in doing so. Mr. Thomas Valdetta has also expressed an interest in serving. I do not know that he is now eligible to do so. Jeff Payne has informed me that he is actually an employee of the city. So would that constitute dual office holding?
Repeat that, please.
I am uncertain if that would constitute dual office holding. Could you?
It would not constitute dual office holding.
Okay.
Have we ever had an employee sit on a board? Just curious.
On our development review committee, that's composed entirely of employees.
So we should nominate all of them at this point, is that?
If council desires, you may nominate all at this time.
We need a motion.
I move we nominate all three.
Four.
Four.
I'm sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to nominate all 4 candidates for the Punta Gorda Isles Canal Advisory Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And then we also have one arts representative seat on the donation review committee. Ms. Lisa Gallucci has expressed an interest in serving and is eligible to do so as the executive director of the Visual Arts Center. If council desires, she may be nominated and appointed at this time.
We did that at the last meeting.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I'm so
Not on the
sorry.
agenda. Yeah.
I forgot to take that off of my notes.
I'm looking, that's not on the list.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, we
Thank
actually
you.
nominated and appointed last time, yes. So that was.
All right.
You can see if you get the same answer.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. City manager.
Just 2 things. One was, of course, we've done some additional contractual things that was in consent agenda initially that helps employee benefits as far as vacation carryover. In this case, makes firefighters consistent with the remainder of the employees. They get a bite at that apple to make sure they were okay with it too, as per contract. So we appreciate the support for that, because anything we can do for the employees is always good. I believe in that contract, with proper training, they each get 6% a year for salary increase, just as information. That's since everyone was interested in that. The other thing is Halloween, of course. Last night, the city did put on a very nice display on Harvey Street in front of the annex, and there were a lot of employees that were involved in that, gave of their time, money, and candy, which money went to candy. I was told that there was over 20,000 pieces of candy that was given out, and not to mention nice little souvenir cups and some notepads also. All candy was donated. The city did not buy any of that, as was employee time. So we really appreciate that we could put some of our equipment on display. We had a very nice Michael Myers, for those of you who knew who that is, that was in one of our units that was sitting there just like a statue until people got close, and then all of a sudden he was alive. So that was a big hit, and we appreciate him taking the time to be at 110 degrees all night long in a costume and do that. But a lot of people with multiple tables, police and fire, had all their equipment out. They were handing out candy, had very nice interaction with the public, had the ghost vehicle that was on one end, fire truck down there. We had a lot of our public works equipment and administrative things on display. So, I mean, it was nice for all the employees to come together and do that, and it was great for the public to have that street that they could go down and actually see what was going on. We also, of course, had our police staff that was engaged in the event, and also, or the non-event, and also our fire. We had our bike medics out there that were making sure they patrolled the streets so that if anyone needed help, that they were available. So we really appreciate that. And I know last year, of course, they had some events that they had to address as bike medics, and this year they were also available to handle situations. So 2 years ago. Last year we had a hurricane, so it was very nice to get that back on track and really do something, that involved us in the community. So that was a really nice event.
Cool.
That's it.
Okay. City Attorney.
Nothing further, thank you.
You okay?
We put him on the spot.
I think I managed to piss off everybody on the city council today.
Good job.
And that's not an easy task, at least all at once.
City Clerk.
City Clerk Sarah Welch for the record. Regarding the city's general election scheduled for November 7th, the canvassing board met on Monday at 9 a.m. and successfully conducted the logic and accuracy test of the voting systems, which will tabulate vote-by-mail ballots and the voting systems which will be present at each precinct's polling location. The canvassing board will meet at 9 a.m. on November 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th to canvass vote-by-mail ballots, process uniformed and overseas absentee ballots, and complete potential recreates for the city's general election. The canvassing board will also meet on November 8th at 11 a.m. to canvass provisional ballots, signature cure affidavits, certify unofficial and official results, complete the conduct of the election, and pull the precinct for the audit of the election. The audit of the election will take place November 14th at 9 a.m. Canvassing board meetings are open to the public, and a viewing area will be available outside of the area where canvassing will occur. Additionally, the polling location for precincts 60.1 and 66.1 had to be changed due to the impact of repairs related to Hurricane Ian at South County Regional Park. We received word from the county yesterday afternoon that a polyurethane coating applied to the repaired gym floors had produced an extremely strong scent, which was not dissipating as anticipated. And while they were taking all measures possible to remedy the issue, they were uncertain if the building would be reopened for the election on Tuesday. In an abundance of caution, the Supervisor of Elections and I felt changing the polling location for city voters of precincts 60.1 and 66.1 was necessary to ensure the well-being of our voters, poll workers, and poll watchers. City electors of precincts 60.1 and 66.1 who would have reported to South County Regional Park will instead report to the Charlotte County Supervisor of Elections office at 226 Taylor Street in order to vote on Election Day, November 7th, 2023. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at their office. We are using all available avenues to get the word out. The Supervisor of Elections has sent out a newsletter and posted to their website and social media about the change. We have issued a press release, will be running an ad on Friday, have posted to our social media and website, and are sending out a letter to all impacted voters in an effort to ensure that everyone is aware of the change prior to the election. We will also be placing a sign at the South County Regional Park in case anyone shows up there if they don't happen to get the news any other way. Do you have any questions?
No.
All right.
Thank you for taking all those steps. That's excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Further to what Sarah mentioned, this year we do have a city election, and that is the only agenda item on the ballot. And it is for City Council District 3 seat. I wish both candidates all the very best luck next Tuesday, and we'll see what happens on Tuesday. Sarah and I are serving on the canvassing board with the Supervisor of Elections per the city charter, and we, as she mentioned, we did have our first meeting this week. We'll be going all day Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, and a half a day on Wednesday, and a half a day on the 14th, so we have a pretty full schedule for the next several days. Because of that, Do the Right Thing is happening tomorrow. I have asked Bill Dryberg to fill in for me if we're not done at the Supervisor of Elections office by 3:30. Do the Right Thing starts at 3:30, and we're scheduled to be at the courthouse until 4 o'clock that day. So I've asked Mr. Dryberg to handle the distribution of the awards to the kids at the Do the Right Thing. Again, we have the air show coming up this weekend. Traffic is going to be insane all around the city, so please be aware of that. I believe that the air show is going to be running shuttle buses from downtown Punta Gorda out to the airport to save people from having to try to find places to park. So you may be able to take advantage of that. And we also have the Healing Field of Honor next weekend on Veterans Weekend. So there's a lot of things going on. We have the Veterans Parade next Saturday at 9 o'clock over in Port Charlotte. It begins at the Port Charlotte Beach Complex and ends at the Gaines Park. And then Chief Gibbs will run us back to the beach complex to get our cars. And there is a Veterans Day ceremony here that day at 11 a.m. for those who wish to be here for that. And that'll be the whole morning taken up with those events. I think that's all I had. City Council members, Mr. Kuharski,
Nothing.
Mrs. Peterman,
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Lucker.
Just wanted to say thank you. Burnstone Meadows did not hand out 20,000 pieces, but we did have a really good showing, and thank you for police and fire that were all through the neighborhood. I saw them making many, many loops and making sure that people were, slowing down and respecting all the kids, and it was a really fun night, so thank you.
Mr. Dryberg.
We had a citizen come before us this morning and talked about the language in the comp plan. Do we want to address that? I mean, is that language indeed there? I mean, I tried to pull it up while I had a chance, and I couldn't.
The comp plan's been submitted to the state. So
then it's
when we talked about language of, the Fisherman's Village was, whatever language was referenced, I can't even remember. I mean, at one point when the hurricane was there, that was the case, and you were talking about the summary, not what's the detail of the comp plan, that's the regulatory part. So, it was basically saying that, regulatory, I use loosely, it was basically saying that these are issues that we're going to continue to address to help the quality of life in the city of Punta Gorda. So, I mean, the attorney might have more to say on that. But.
And people ask why we gave you a 5% raise. I'm saying that's exactly why. Very smart individual. Thank you. That's all I have.
Prior to final adoption, there may be comments that we receive from the state,
right.
And those comments would need to be incorporated into an amended version of the comprehensive plan that's presently before you. And to the extent that there are other recognized errors, those can non-substantial affecting the important details of it can be corrected. So if in fact that language remains in the comprehensive plan, at the time it comes back to you for final adoption, that can be corrected.
Okay.
Yep. And in the case of Fisherman's Village, if that wording seems to be egregious for some reason, you can always change it at that point, that was said. But remember too, the comp plan was going to be presented last year at this time, and for adoption, and it was tabled. So there were a lot of things that happened right after the hurricane that we were ready to go with, but now we had to wait for another year. So some of that can be reflected in the amended version at the end of the day.
Okay. With that, we are adjourned.